Well, in this little video, I'm going to reveal some of my gadgets. Yep. Well, this video is a little bit different to the norm. It's there's no fishing involved. It's all going to be gadgets and gizmos that I find useful, and hopefully you guys will find useful too. It's my it's my man cave. This is my tackle den, rig tying room, whatever you like to call it. It's my special place in the house that I'm allowed in and no one else is without my permission. And I can do what I like in here. So although my daughter is increasingly trying to turn it into a bit of a playroom, but that's not its primary purpose, shall we say. So yeah, I'm just going to show you some gadgets and gizmos that I use in fishing. I get asked all the time, or what to use for certain such job, and or what would you do with this, or however you manage to adapt your tackle this way or whatever. So I'm going to show you just, I don't know, about 10 items that I use and find useful. I've been using for years and years and years. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to show you my man cave essentials. Well, one of the most useful gadgets I've been using for years and years and years is the humble old label writer. This is a Dymo letter tag, as old as the hills, but I have looked online and it's still available. This very model, it might be a Mark II, Mark III version now, but that's still available, and this one's still going strong. And even though it keeps saying battery's about to run out, it keeps working and working. So but yeah, absolutely brilliant. I'm always labeling things, whether it's hook length boxes, or I've just done my rig trays there. I don't know if you can see that. All sorts of things I'm always labeling up, and once you start labeling things, it gets a bit addictive. Sad, I know, but it's nice to label things and know where things are. Hook length boxes, you know, I've got, there's my new storage tub. I've got barbless hooks and on two sides, so all my barbless hooks goes in one of those. That sort of thing is it's great to label everything up and know where everything is. So go for the these are the refills. Go for the plastic white ones, because that's a bit more waterproof, obviously a bit more handy than for fishing. You can get sort of more papery ones, but go for the plastic coated white ones, and it's dead easy to use. If you just turn it on, it's a bit dusty, but hopefully you can see that. And I'm gonna, I've already written carp, sorry, carp, R-I-G-S, and you can change the size of the text, and you can use numbers and letters. You can save ones if you use them a lot. And then I'm just going to click that, click printing. It should pop out that side there. Done. And then that cuts it, and there you are. And there's your carp rigs label. Ever so easy to put on as well. Peel it off. There you are, put you on your carp rigs. I suppose you could even label your label writer. Well, this has to be one of my favourite gadgets, a pop riveter. Wah! Who doesn't like pop riveting, eh? It's a brilliant little tool for fishing purposes. So many things in fishing, seat box attachments especially, are pop riveted. So it's nice to be able to make little fixes, little repairs or little modifications, and a pop riveter is a lovely little gadget for that. And all you need is a tub of pop rivets in different sizes. Just show you those. Get them in different sizes. And things like, just show you that's an old keep net block of mine. Now, if you can see there, that's where it's been pop riveted in. I'll show you on my other camera there. So, and because you can drill them out, and then you can re-pop rivet into a different bracket on there if you want a slightly bigger one, or you know, I used to have a reeve box, so I used to swap my reeve clamps for matrix clamps or whatever was better. I didn't particularly like that kind of clamp, so I often used to swap it for a 36mm on a different brand. So and to do that, I'd drill it out and re-pop rivet it. But also, these things are really prone to snapping. Anything with heavy sort of size 10 ski tex boots in winter especially, I've kicked no end of bars in half, and me pole sock bar and that, it's just gone dunk and folded in half. And all it is, you've just snapped the pop rivet. But to repair them, ever so easy. You can find your pop riveter. Actually, I haven't got anything in here, but I might as well just show you. Just pop. Oh, that's a small one. So this is beauty to have like different size pop rivets as well, different lengths. There's a nice big one. I have to order some more. But so imagine there's a bar in there. It's a really satisfying thing to be doing. And then you just press it. One more time. It's probably done. There we are. And that bit pops out. That's the pop rivet a bit popped out. And there we are, a new pop rivet put in. With no bar in the end, but that's what it's done, it's re-pop riveted. So so yeah, great little bit of equipment. I really enjoy pop riveting. Something sad about me, but that's the bloke in me, I suppose. But get yourself a pop riveter. It's only about 20 quid and for a set, and you'll get a load of sizes, loads of little pop rivets as well. It's useful for little repairs and that when you know, it's ever so easy to break things like that. I mean, over the years, this is an old thing. I put a little attachment on the end of a under and over bar, and it's just so I could put another attachment on top of that, a little pole hook or something. So that's the kind of thing I used to pop rivet quite a lot. So even if you're not modifying things, it's useful for quick repairs and stuff. And we've all must have broken a few bars and attachments in our time. Doesn't matter how well they're made, it's easy to kick them off with clumsy feet when you're on the bank and slipping all over mud and stuff. So yeah, really like my pop riveter. Gadget number 3. Now at the complete opposite end of the spectrum are my micro drill bits. Look at those. And they're about 8 quid for a set of 10. And these ones, I think they go from 1.2 mil right down to 0.3 mil. If you can see that there. I've actually snapped one. They're so fine, you have to be very, very careful. I've only recently snapped that, to be honest. But it's they're just so useful for any sort of pole float modifications. I'm quite keen on changing stems and tips on my pole floats, and if you just pull them out and then wedge in a slightly thicker one, it often splits the body, especially on balsa and stuff. And they're just little hand drills. By carefully turning them, you can actually just open up a hole a lot more carefully without splitting or damaging your pole float. Quite regularly I'll be putting a wire, well, I'll use a wire stem float, but I'll put a carbon or a glass in, which are traditionally tend to be a little bit thicker than wire. And so these sort of things are really useful. Or sometimes I'm putting a slightly thicker bristle in. I've got a lot of fine floats with like a 1 mil bristle, and I might want a 1.2 mil bristle in. So this kind of thing really helps. And for a set of 8, and for a set of 10 for about 8 quid, you can't go wrong really. And I don't use it all the time obviously, but that's a really, really useful little set of drill bits, and very, very fiddly. You've got to be ever so careful, as I've proven just breaking that one off, but I find them really, really invaluable. A big tape measure. Now this one is 30 meters long, but you can actually get them in 20 meters as well, and to be honest, that's all you need is a 20 meter one. And I've had this ever since I was editing Pole Fishing magazine, and we used to measure all the poles that we used to get sent in, and it was surprising, really opened your eyes to see how long a pole is as to its stated length. And if it wasn't for people like me hounding some of these tackle companies, they'd still be producing poles that are way below the length, because we used to show them up. We used to say, look, you know, you're saying it's a 13 meter pole and it's 12.2 or something like that. So this tape measure dates back from when I was at Pole Fishing magazine, and I'm still using it now. Whenever I get a brand new pole, if it's completely different, like as soon as I moved to Matrix, the first thing I did was get my pole out in the lawn, ship it right up to 16 meters and measure it. And not just to see if it was true 16 meter length, which with a mini extension it is, like most poles. I wanted to know exactly where it was at 14.5, what we call 14.5, 13 meters, 11 meters, 10 meters. You know, that's what I call those lengths of poles, but I wanted to know exactly how far they were. But also at the other end, I want to know how long my top kits are when it's a top 2, top 3, top 4, because I do a lot of river fishing, so I wanted to know exactly how long my top kits were, and also how long they were when I was using a top kit and a short 3 and all sorts of combinations, short kits and what have you. So anyway, it's really, really useful. And also, obviously, if you're going to fish an Angling Trust rules match, for instance, like Fishermania, it's a 16 meter pole limit. Your pole must be 16 meters. If it's over that, you'll get disqualified. So and if you was on an international rules match, it's a 13 meter pole limit. So you must measure your pole, and a little retractable tape measure like that. It's nice to know exactly what you're using and how long things are. A decent self-healing cutting mat and a quality craft knife or retractable knife like that I use all the time. I've had this since I was an art and design student, and it's a self-healing mat. So rather than cutting into all your wood and blunting your knives and that, you don't blunt your blade too fast, but also you're not obviously cutting into your furniture either. So well, it must be 20 years old, this cutting mat now, and again you can still get them, still jacquard cutting mats. They're still available now. I've looked online just to see. A lot of these things I'm showing you, you should be able to get online, and I'll put some links below in the description so you can just click on and find them. And also, this knife dates back to my years as a student as well. And again, this Alpha Cutter 300 is still available now. I can't believe it, but this is nice. You can get a lot of cheap plasticky ones, and I've bought sets of them. I've probably got some behind me somewhere, but this one's just decent and rugged. And I'll be gutted if I lost this knife. It's got to be 15 years old and still going strong. All you got to do is change the blades. They're retractable blades, don't you see that? And they just fit in like that. I'm trying to be careful, I don't want to cut my fingers. And you just get snap-on blades, and you get a refill, and they just slot in. But yeah, I absolutely love this little knife. I've had it so long, I would genuinely be gutted if I lost it. Sharpie marker pens. Now, I've got no connection with Sharpie whatsoever. 2 years ago, I just thought there was just a brand of marker pen, of which they are, but I didn't think there was anything special about them. But I got some, and I realised they're much more reliable than most marker pens on the market. They just seem to be a bit more hard wearing, and they flow nicely, and also they seem to last. They don't seem to dry out as quickly as other marker pens, so there's obviously something in them. So but I use them a lot for all my little annotations and things. A lot of people would have seen me marking my top kits. I mark my top kits in inch increments. They're also useful for writing on a pole float. Its size in grams. Got a lot of handmade floats. The shotting is on the wrong side of the float, so you can write it, so when it's on the winder it's sticking up facing the right way. The silver pen is particularly good for that. I've even been modifying some of my floats and actually colouring in some of my pole floats. I used white for a long time, but I've gone to this grey colour now this year, which I think is a little bit better for all my sort of shallow floats. So I've been busily colouring them all with my Sharpie pen. So that's probably a subject for a completely different video. And oh, you know, again, you can see I've put glass stems in these old they're old Preston float, I think they are, not, but I've put a glass stem in them by using my micro drills. So but yeah, and I've just coloured the bodies. They were a blue colour, but a silver Sharpie is surprisingly good for colouring your pole floats and stuff. So but I also use them for writing on and writing, making all sorts of annotations on things and stuff. So that one's just got a nice size point. Again, they seem to last. One pen has coloured in about 100 pole floats, and this one, the black one's got a finer tip. I tell you, an absolute bonus. This isn't going to benefit you in any way. Where are they? I ordered a set of 2, and look what came. They sent me a whole box. So that's a bonus. If anyone wants a Sharpie marker pen, you know where to come. But I don't know what I'm going to do. There's a 2 lifetime supply of marker pens there, but they worked out very cheap indeed for me. But yeah, silver and black Sharpies, really useful. Just better than anything else I've used. I would be lost without my Micrometer. Now this is a handheld one. It's not one of the new fancy digital ones, but my dad gave me this, and my dad's an engineer, or he used to be an engineer when he was working, and this is one of his old ones, and I've been using this for 20 years, and it's absolutely invaluable. I'm really into how thick your line is, and I want to know if I've bought 020 line, is it 020, is it 010, is it what? But without a micrometer you won't know. You can't necessarily go by what the box says or what the manufacturer says. Going back when I first started to get really into fine lines, especially when I was using canal rigs and 0.6, 0.07, 0.08 diameter hook lengths, a micrometer told me a hell of a lot. Certain brands that said they were accurate were way out, and it's common for most of them to be 0.01 out, but 0.02 and above is there's certain lines out there that are out. So my advice is, whatever line you're using, stick to one brand, because if you use 2 different brands, one stronger and one lighter, you might actually be using the same diameter line. So diameters definitely make a difference. Fish don't have micrometers, you'll hear certain people say, but they can certainly detect thick line and thin line, else we'd all just be using the thick stuff, wouldn't we? So yeah, so I just show you. I mean, I just hold mine like that and just rotate it. The digital ones I'm sure are very good. I've never used a digital micrometer. I'm more than happy with the one my dad gave me. So but you can do it to the click, but I tend to just go until to the feel, because obviously line is soft. So that's 014. I don't know if you can see there.
I don't know if you can see there, but it actually says 015, and I'm more than happy. That's 0.01 out, and that's really good as far as lines go with my micrometer. My micrometer might be out a little bit, but if it is, it's 0.01 out. And if we go to another brand, this is some power line, which everyone knows, should know, is way out, but that's fine. It's a good line, but it's just, you must appreciate that it's out, and that's 015. According to my micrometer, let's just show it there. There we are, 019, there we are, 019, 015, and actually, that's I've actually marked that one up with my silver Sharpie, so I actually knew. I went through a phase of just trying power line for a little bit, but it's strong, really reliable line, but it is way out. You've just got to be aware of that. So I'm more than happy using my Power Micron. Obviously I'm a matrix consultant, so I will use that, but it's strong enough for me, and I know where I stand with that. But I'm not saying power line's a bad line. It's just really, really out as far as diameters go. I know, for instance, 013 power line is thicker than my 014 Power Micron. So that's a nice little example. And without a micrometer or other people's say so, you'll never know. But it's nice to know for yourself. And we ever get a new spool line or a new family of line, just mic it up and see what it is. You'll be really surprised. Certain brands are really accurate and other ones are really out. But stick to one manufacturer's line if you like a certain line. But it will tell you quite a lot, I think, a micrometer. Often when you've put a rig away and you're not sure what it was, you come back to it 2 months later, and so a micrometer will remind you what line and diameter it is if you've not written on the spool or whatever. Little things like that, or spools of line off your reel. A micrometer will help you know what line you actually had on it. So really, really useful. I wouldn't be without mine. Superhero mug for your brew as well. Essential man cave tackle. Now this is a funny one for me. I remember ordering this, and when it finally came in through the post, I was like, oh crikey, it's a bit smaller than I expected. It's a tiny, what millage is that? 17mm bottle of acrylic white paint. I was expecting something like 500mm, but actually, now I've been using it, it's ever so useful, and because it's so nice and small, and the type of painting I do with pole floats and pole float bristles and that, it's actually really, really good, and surprisingly good. And acrylic paint's really useful because it's water soluble. Once it dries, it's actually waterproof. So but it's really, this one's really good because I just use an old packet or something, and just, you can really control how much you put out by the little pipette type nozzle. So tiny amounts. This bottle's lasted me ages, you know. So and then a little brush, and I can touch up pole float bodies or put a little base coat on them, or a pole float tip. But it's really good, and obviously acrylic paint dries really, really fast as well compared to sort of oil-based paint. So you can easily do 2 or 3 coats in minutes, really. And but yeah, tiny amounts, and really, really good. I think it's about £2.50, £3 for a little tiny bottle, and I've just ordered some in sky grey and fluorescent orange and fluorescent yellow as well. I'm going to see what they're like on pole float bristles and that. Before that, I've used this kind of thing. They're quite hard to get hold of, but that's like a blaze orange float paint. I'm always touching up bristles. Sometimes you can only get yellow pole float bristles, but then a yellow pole float bristle makes a great base coat for orange paint. So by all means get your yellow pole float bristles, but put some orange paint on them. And you can even make a 2-tone tip as well by painting the top half orange and leaving the bottom half yellow. So all that sort of thing. But they're what I used to use, these kind of brush on fluorescent things. But I'm quickly moving to these little tiny acrylic tubs, and I will wait and see what the fluorescent ones are like. But the white one on its own, absolutely invaluable in my little tackle room. Another little useful gadget for me are needle files. I don't use them so much now because most poles come pre-bushed, but I'm on the bank coaching and I have to cut back some people's poles sometimes to re-elasticate their top kits and stuff. And once you've trimmed a pole tip back, it's useful to just smooth things off with a needle file, and you can even use it as a bit of a saw for chopping bits of carbon back on a pole tip as well. So again, these ones are from my dad. I also use them. I chop down a lot of metal stems, and the needle file is the best way of smoothing off the end of a metal pole float stem. You don't want the little sharp burrs because that cuts through your pole float silicon. So I use this flat needle file the most for metal pole float stems whenever I've trimmed them down. Now then, my last little gadget is if you've got son or a daughter or a wife or a husband that keeps coming into your rig room and you don't want them there, show them this. It works a treat and scares them to death. So that worked for my daughter when she was growing up a hell of a lot, and it kept her out of certain rooms for a long time, including this one. So I like that, don't you? So there you are, trick spider, and that concludes my man cave gadgets.